Thank you for staying with us. Let's quickly check head on now what the big stories on Nigerian newspapers are saying this morning. We've got a host of them, about 12 of them. Ibrahim and I will be, highlighting the big stories, that is, and we begin with the blueprint, which reads that as President Tinubu, as well as his challengers, his main challengers in the fallout of the presidential election of this year, that's Mr. Atiku and Obi, know their fate on Wednesday. The DSS has raised the alarm, with federal government begging labor on warning strike. As Tinubu, Atiku know their fate on Wednesday, DSS is also talking tough. That's all on Blueprint. Daily Trust is next. Parties said to be optimistic as tribunal rules on Atiku Obi's petitions tomorrow. Still on the Wednesday judgment, with many Nigerians, wondering how the senior judges will, deliver their verdict in the presidential election petition. Nigerian News Direct now, presidential election still topping the headlines so far. Controversies persist as tribunal decides Tinubu Atiku Obi's fate on Wednesday. NLC, in the meantime, shuns federal government meeting to proceed on strike. Politicians mobilizing students, ethnic groups, others for protest. That's according to security observers as well as officers. That's on the Nigerian News Direct newspaper. Finally, with me is the leadership. It's talking about Labour shunning the federal government to begin a warning strike over delayed palliatives amidst the hardships in the country. Aviation workers pull out, though, as unions vow to shut banks and other institutions. That's from my end. Ibrahim.
The Nation newspaper is what I have with me first here, which is saying that federal government, TUC, strike over subsidy payments not needed now. NLC pushes ahead, shuns meeting with minister. Federal government, TUC, strike over subsidy payments not needed now. That's NLC pushes ahead, shuns meeting with minister. That's the Nation newspaper. Voice of Liberty has it as the screaming headline here. Not screaming, really. NLC shuns federal government's meeting as banks, insurance firms, maritime workers to join two-day warning strike. NLC shuns federal government's meeting as banks, insurance firms, maritime workers to join two-day warning strike. The Daily Times is next. Fuel subsidy removal, and this one is really screaming. First subsidy removal, federal government begs NLC. Strike will hold, NLC president vows. Fuel subsidy removal strike, federal government begs NLC. Strike will hold, NLC vows. This Nigeria is next. DSS warns over plots to stage violent protests. Identifies ringleaders. NLC adamant avoid meeting with federal government to avert warning strike. This Nigeria says DSS warns over plots to stage violent protests. That's this Nigeria. Salient Times is next. Federal government's debt service gobs 99% of revenue in 6 months. Budget office. And the writer reads, federal government prepares to submit 2024 budget in October. Federal government's debt service gobs 99% of revenue in 6 months. It's amazing. That's Salient Times. First News is next. Current economic hardship. Ex-Kano Emir Sanusi indicts Buhari, absolves Tinubu. And the writer reads, alleges ex-president's administration borrowed 30 trillion naira from the CBN, couldn't service debt. Current economic hardship, ex-Kano Emir Sanusi indicts former President Buhari and absolves incumbent President Tinubu. Business Day newspaper is next. Tinubu's 100 days, bold moves, shaky execution. Bold moves, shaky execution. Tinubu's 100 days, that's according to Business Day. And the last but not least here is the Guardian newspaper. Bold reforms leave Nigerians more miserable amid assurances. Bold reforms leave Nigerians more miserable amid assurances. That's the Guardian newspaper. A lot of things, a lot of newspapers talking about the current situation of the country, and especially the NLC, which is also threatening to embark on strike today.
Right, Ibrahim. So there we have the papers, and from what we have heard, there are, some sticky stories or sticky headlines. I noticed you were cautious with the word screaming, but some really stuck out. And of course, we've spoken about one of them being the much-awaited presidential election election petition judgment, which is due to be delivered on Wednesday. And Wednesday, that is also scheduled to be I call it a day 2 of a warning strike, yet another strike by the labor groups. We understand that strike, it appears to be no going back, as the strike will take off today. It's built to be a 2-day warning strike. There was a last-minute meeting between the federal government through the coordinating Minister of Labor and Productivity, as well as his supporting minister. But one of the major labor unions that had been in talks with the federal government was missing, talking about the Nigerian Labour Congress. The TUC, the Trade Union Congress, was there. But the NLC said, according to reports, that it was important that they stay out so that it will not disturb their planned strike, which is to commence today. We also hear that state chapters have also expressed their readiness to join the strike. In addition, the Maritime Union too has mobilized its members to join, just as Association of Employees of Banks and Insurance, and as well as other related institutions have said they will join the strike. Ibrahim, how does this beat you? Are you exactly surprised at this turn of events?
Well, I won't call it a surprise. I know that for every action, there will always be a reaction. So whether the reaction it does counterbalance that action, or is very effective, then that's left to people to judge. But I feel that this administration is just 3 months old, and there's a lot that they met on ground, which they're trying to clear the mess they met on ground. Even though the argument will still always be, but it has always been the same party, yes, but not the same crop of people who are the M of affairs. So I feel that the strike is not needed at this time, because as some had already said, that it will further worsen the conditions of Nigerians, the plight of Nigerians. You're working, you're not really enjoying what you're working for. If you stop working, or if you strike,
right,
you are still inflicting pains on yourself. I read of a story, just a bit deviation. I read a story of someone who went on hunger strike. One of a contender in one country, my memory fails me now, that he's going on hunger strike. Later on, he ended the hunger strike, because I wonder, when you inflict injury on yourself in order to spite the other person, or cut your nose to spite your face, I do not think that is really needed. So there are so many strategies that I feel the labor union should bring to the table, because we could see, according to what Salient newspaper reported, said that federal government debt service gobs 99% of revenue in 6 months. This predated this current administration. It's a big mess. We also saw that former Emir of Kano, Lamido Sanusi, blaming the past administration for borrowing up to 30 trillion naira from the CBN, and they couldn't service debt.
So we're talking about inherited
burdens, palaver that Nigeria is facing at this time. So why should? So I feel our labor leaders are running out of ideas. Okay, fine. We were supposed to have a meeting yesterday. The TUC was attended. The NLC leadership wasn't in attendance. Why? They said because they got information that they got wind that they would be arrested. I do not know how that adds up. How did you hear that? They said the Minister of Labor, Simon Lalong, was threatening to arrest them, to speak bad, to speak negative things at them, or not willing to, a lot of things. So I just felt some of these things are just, ways of trying to call dog a bad name, or how do they use that expression? So I feel what they still need to do is to come to the round table and talk, because at the end of the day, when they go on strike, they will still come back and have this negotiation. You can't go to war and say, okay, after the war, how do we resolve it? You still come back to the round table. So there are many strategies that they can deploy in resolving this current situation. You need to join hands with the government. If they are, in fact, it was even the president that said it is the new minimum wage is no longer a minimum wage. What you need to be receiving is the living wage. So he had already advanced that that plan to increase the living wage, as people would like to call it.
But Ibrahim, this issue of the role that our labor leaders have, played so far has also, caused some form of divisions in terms of, where do I stand? I stand with Labour at this time. I stand with Labour always, or I stand with the federal government. With a chunk of Nigerians saying Labour has, been hobnobbing, perhaps on a not too comfortable, relationship level with the federal government. And could Labour have forgotten their role, to serve as, representatives of the people? What has, the talks or the level of engagement with the federal government achieved? And perhaps that could also be, a sign in the number of unions that are said to be on Labour on this issue of strike. Even ASU, the Students' University Teachers Union, has also indicated readiness to join, as well as the Association of Staff of Universities, of Polytechnics, I should say. Right. We are seeing a rather, will I call it growing, but we are seeing that Labour isn't alone on this. And for the issue of banks, staff, and other financial institutions joining the strike, we're wondering, while preparing for the show this morning, that when did the average Nigerian hear about that? What are the options? If Labour is trying to, come down hard with a message through the banks, we all know how our people love to go to the banks. We all know issues.
We are still reading from the effects of the cash.
Even up till now, there are still people who have no choice but to go to the banks because they are battling endlessly with their networks on their phones, trying to make needed and crucial transactions and have no other choice but to go to the banks. If the banks know, or if the associations, not the banks now, if they know that they are going to join the strike, because we know that Labour had announced since last week or thereabout, did the bank staff bodies, did they inform Nigerians adequately enough? A lady in the office made a crucial point. It's our money after all. So why would you choose to close the banks and say we cannot go in to access our money? Is it your money? Are you doing us a favor?
And I feel that's the reason why the federal government usually wants to, use this the law of no work, no pay, and then the Labour will come back fighting back, saying, okay, no pay, no work. So it's always been a forth and back thing. So I just feel that they need to be creative in driving home their demands. Not everything should resort to strike. Absolutely,
but there is the crucial matter that also needs to be addressed. Federal government has said again and again that the palliatives are going to be implemented at shoring Nigerians, and also
some have been moved to different states. They should talk to the state governors.
With state government also, beefing up, those palliative measures in their own various capacities. But, the point also remains and has been said over and over again that the government would also need to intensify the pace at which, this implementation is done, because the hardship, the struggles Nigerians are facing are real, and it is cutting across, from wherever you stand. Even the rich, the average, the poor Nigerians, everyone is feeling the pinch somehow. Is it oil? Is it fuel you want to talk about? Which, of course, affects various issues of various aspects of life. These are daily realities, and we all know, or more and more people are realizing that, yes, just look at what you said now about the former emir of Kano now speaking about the economic realities, how that the Buhari administration may have missed it at one point or the other, and exonerating, so to speak, the Tinubu administration, which is just about 3 months old or thereabouts.
So just giving
you've said it all. These are inherited burdens that the government has, put on itself, and he has said that do not envy me.
Yeah.
Do not pity me, rather.
Yeah.
I know what is in the offing before I decided to run for this crucial
Kemi,
job.
you and I, we both agree that holidays, honeymoon is over for this incumbent administration. There is no time for them to start thinking, what do we do? Because a lot of backlashes have been coming from different quarters that, okay, why did you announce that fuel subsidy is gone, even though we know? You shouldn't have told us to our face. So if they felt that the mistake has been made, they are trying to resolve all of this. We've heard about the CNG that the government is also introducing, the buses they are looking to purchase and all of that. But I know that we Nigerians are not, we are not patient people. And if you are patient enough, you can't be patient and you say, okay, because I want to be patient and I want to die. So I feel it behoves the federal government to, just like you said, to expedite actions in mitigating some of these effects in the generality of the people.
Or you might even say that Nigerians have a thick skin, to
we adapt a lot
to life, adapting to life. Okay, look at it now. Everybody, understandably made noise about fuel subsidy to be removed. What's the implication of that? Almost, is it triple now or even more than triple what we were paying, before President Tinubu was sworn in, and now, somehow, private institutions, government, and some at all levels, they are all making, some form of move to cushion the effect. Okay, you don't have to come to work every day, but of course, that's not for some of us who.
Some are enjoying it. Some are enjoying within here.
Even in the private sector, even in the public sector, but yes, but emergency.
Absolutely.
Workers obviously, still have to go to work, to do their crucial services now to the populace. So. Somehow people are looking out for themselves. People are being urged to also look out for the welfare of others. So, but then the bulk still rests on the table of the government. But then looking at the ministers who will be coordinating these talks with governments, they just started, after all, when were they, sworn in? This will probably be like the first meeting that Mr. Lalong will be having with Labour. So perhaps it is also expected that Labour should also cut government some slack. Yeah. But both sides need to be, very engaging at this point and, do more than has been done.
I would like to, before you
we don't have much time, but you can just have
when you said that Nigerians, have developed thick skin, there is this saying in Yoruba language that if you slap the face today, slap the face tomorrow, at the point in time, the eyes will be looking, you'll be squinting. There is no way you see clearly. So I feel the federal government needs to expedite action. There is no time for them to resolve all of these issues on ground, because Nigerians are actually facing, they are reeling from the impact of all of these, measures. All of these policies, I would say.
Right.
And they need to really, really ensure that this is taken care of in no distant time.